she's handsome, refreshed, some ways, but she's strong.
All right. It is, Mike's already given us the sign, so we are live. First Peter, chapter 4. The guy that does these lessons, he's actually divided the lesson into verses 1 through 11. But I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna read the whole chapter. So let's go ahead and I don't know, we might want to say it's 19 verses.
What chapter?
Huh?
I didn't hear the scripture.
First Peter chapter. Sorry. First Peter chapter 4. Like I said, the guy that does the lessons has divided it into 1 through 11 and then 12. But I'm gonna just like I said, we're gonna try to just the whole group. We'll read the whole chapter. We'll get through this part of the maybe the whole thing. So let's go ahead and offer prayer, and we'll jump in and get started. Dear Heavenly Father, we're again grateful, Lord, that we're here, and Lord, that the blessings that you've given to us in this day, we ask that, Lord, just fill us today with your Holy Spirit, and touch us, reach, Lord, to our hearts, and help us to hear your word and listen, and to, Lord, to decide to obey and to do, Lord, what your will is, to follow you. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so if you want to read this, if you want to divide it, let's say verses 1 through 10, and then we'll have somebody read verses 11 through 19. So anybody want to read verse 1 through 10? Of course. Okay, what?
Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body has done sin. As a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness,
if you didn't question his theme about suffering, this passage, this chapter should probably recall or remind you back to this is what he's been talking about. So he's going to talk a little bit. He's obviously addressing it still, this whole theme, this topic of suffering as Christians. So one of the things that he talks about in verse 1, and he says, since Christ has suffered, he talks about arm yourselves. Okay, now so I've got a couple of guys here. Not what you're thinking, or well, maybe arm yourselves.
Arm out, right arm.
Yeah.
There are some knowledge of God.
Okay, with the knowledge of God. Okay. What does he say? Arm yourself for a while.
Same attitude.
That what version do you have there? The one?
I think she says
NIV. NIV. The New American Standard Version says with the same purpose, same attitude of Christ. So, this is the thing that he also realized. Jesus willingly suffered for us. So arm yourselves with that same purpose, that same attitude. I like the word attitude there. I mean, it is, of course, the same purpose, but that attitude. This is the thing that, a lot of people like say today, we kind of struggle with that. The guy that's doing the lesson writer, Jason Dexter, I think that's why he kind of discussed it beforehand. A lot of people are kind of like say, as they question, it's like, well, what should I do? Should I just decide? And he said, like I said, a lot of people make that decision. They do make that decision. It's like, well, I've got a choice. Be a Christian and suffer, or go along with the rest of the world and have live life on easy street. And a lot of people decide, man, I don't need to. I didn't sign up for suffering. Let me give me easy street, and I'll make that decision. Some Christians is kind of trying to figure out do I just go along with suffering, or do I try to, I guess you say, do something to avoid it? That's a dilemma that, like I said, we all come to. We probably maybe even a bigger issue eventually for us, very possible. But this is the thing: arm yourselves. And he writes this. Jason makes the point is when you think of the word to arm yourselves, we're thinking about fight. And the point is, this is warfare talk. Well, the point is, yes, we are engaged in spiritual warfare. And if you're going to get involved in warfare and fighting, you have to prepare. Part of preparing is arming yourself. So this is the deal, that you're going to arm yourself with this attitude. You have to mentally just, mentally get yourself prepared for, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what possibly is coming my direction. How am I going to do this? How am I going to face this? I still go back to it because to me it's still a perfect example. We just observed D-Day. Last week, D-Day. Now I can imagine those guys that were on those those landing crafts, and I guarantee you, they didn't have much time. But think about, once they got on those, once they boarded those boats, they had a little bit of time to start thinking about, okay, you know, and that was a lot of mental preparation, and some of those guys were clueless. Some of those guys already knew pretty much here's what to expect, you know, when we get there. You know, and that's the thing, we're all very amazed and grateful and thankful for guys that, like say, that in spite of all the odds, and those guys knew the odds were stacked against them, they were pushing forward. You know, that's because they had that time to, it's like, okay, scared to death. Like I said, because they knew what was, some of those guys could see what was going on ahead of them, and just enough ahead of them to see what was happening, what was going on, but they got themselves mentally ready. When they dropped that door, what I gotta do, what I'm going to do. And he said, like I said, we see. So here's the deal. We're in this big war. And it looks like, and it seems like the odds are stacked against us. More and more every day, it seems like. So what kind of preparation are we doing? What kind of attitude preparation are we engaged in, and are we doing? I hope we are. Like I said, stealing, as I say, stealing yourself. You know, get ready. Okay.
Those guys have to fall back on their training,
Yeah.
so we also need to be trained.
Yeah. That's a very good point. We need to be. Like I said, we got some young people, especially that crew right there, you know, and getting them ready. And I think part of what we're having, you know, in society today is because for a lot of years we haven't been doing that. Our young people in churches, we haven't been getting them ready like we should be. Now, I mean, you know, like I say, so.
Joseph, one of the things, you know, I trained a lot of officers for a lot of years on the firing range. And I told them, I said, you can't wait till it happens and then decide what you're going to do. You have to run all these scenarios through your head. And I said, you have to get into, you basically have to go through everything that's going to happen to you. And this is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
You have to anticipate what's going to come at you later on and be prepared for it. You'll have the answer. And when you train yourself enough, the answer just comes to you.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for what's fixing to you.
I think I said, I think I've mentioned to Dan before, with the Department of Mental Health, San Paul, I don't remember, Department of Mental Health, they had, years ago, they had it was called personal safety. It was a seminar, workshop we all had, required mandatory, we had to go to, called personal safety. Led by and taught by an Oklahoma City police officer. And why in the world they did it that one time? It's been like over 10 years ago. Why in the world they don't do it more often? I don't know. But, and the reason, like I said, and one of the things that grabbed my attention, just like I say, this last night while we were gone, had the news on, and I don't know if anybody saw it, noticed it, but anyway, just this last week, was one of the social workers, I don't remember now what state it was in, but a social worker, critical condition in the hospital, because she went to make a home visit on a person and was severely beaten by that client, patient. The reason they started that personal safety training was because we had a social worker, there was a social worker for the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health in Oklahoma City that, went to make a home visit. She didn't go back to the office, was missing, and anyway, just so happens that the guy that she went to make a visit on wound up turning himself in to the police department. He had taken a cinder block and basically crushed her skull, put her body in the trunk of his car, and then he drove around, what was it, the mall, the very first mall there in Oklahoma City? Crossroads Mall, and just drove around for hours, just kept driving around, finally until he got enough courage up and he turned himself into Oklahoma City Police Department. Well, that was one of the things that caused them to decide to do this training. That was one of the things that, like I said, Dan mentioned to us, is he talked to us about it. And he talked about even just, being at home, thinking about this is that arm yourself, this is that mental preparation. What would I do? What am I going to do? Let's say somebody busted in the front door. And he said, think about it ahead of time. Think about your house, your layout, all your exits, windows, whatever. Well, okay, what if they come to the back door? What are you going to do? What do you think about? And think about every possible scenario. And he said, what you do then, and then you just run that over and over and over and over in your mind. He said, now this is like I said, this is what we do with police officers. What are you going to do so that if, in case it actually does happen, automatic. You don't even have to stop and think. You're there, you're done, you're out the door.
No, that guy tried to grab my gun and took me in the elevator.
Oh.
I reacted just the way I was trained, never even thought about it, just instinctively happened. So you
Yeah.
have to prepare yourself for just anything that you can use. Or if you're going to spread a little word, you need to understand what's going to come at you eventually.
Yeah.
And be prepared for an answer, what they're going to do, what they want, how they're trying to manipulate you.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
all this things.
So, like I say, last week, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about be ready to give a defense for your faith when you're questioned. That could be part of that training where think about ahead of time, what would my answer be if somebody asked question A, or question B, or question C? Well, think about it. And so that in that moment when that person says, yeah, but what about whatever, maybe you're already there. Okay. So he talks about like I say, being arming yourself, as he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. What? Suffering ceases sin? That's my question. He who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. That's my question. Wow. What do you mean by that?
Suffering to not stopping sin, right? When you lose sin and don't want to control themselves, they're good time. They're having a great time. No worries. Not thinking about the ultimate future, but you're not struggling. Right?
Right.
This means taming the flesh and being a human person. Right? And things that just naturally agree in living in this world in the flesh.
Giving up pleasures, sinful pleasures of the flesh.
There is, I guess you say, there is something to say for, and of course I know Paul talks about physical discipline, and talking about that its value or lack of value. and the thing is, in that particular scripture, he is basically addressing the Gnostics, that was the Gnostic teaching that was around. And to just kind of remind everybody, and John, the Apostle John writes even more extensively about it, whatever, but to kind of remind everybody, the word gnosis, Greek language, G-N, we say G-N, it's a hero, whatever, but it's pronounced gnosis, which is the word we get our word knowledge. And the premise behind that teaching is your salvation is through how much you know. That's how you achieve salvation, is the gain of knowledge. So they attached to some of that, that's the basic idea, and the whole idea is, if you're going to become, and they were some of those people that were Gnostics that said they were, they were followers of Christ, they were Christian. But it was like it got really twisted. So their idea is, but how you get to heaven, this is how you get saved, is by the gain of knowledge. At the same time, they also believe, here's the idea, anything of the flesh is evil, the spirit is good. So one of the things they did was, this was part of their ideas, I guess it was almost like a works salvation kind of thing. So what you did was, this is flesh, this is evil. So they would intentionally, physically punish themselves. The idea that, okay, this is what we got to do. And I say, you've heard, there's all kinds of stories, things that these people would do, like wintertime, find a frozen pond, frozen body of water, and they basically strip naked and lay on ice as long as they possibly could stand it. This was their idea, punishing this flesh, punishing it, and all kinds of things they would do to punish their flesh. That's what Paul was speaking against. He was like, that's completely, that's off track, completely off track. However, at the same time, as you mentioned, sacrifice, and thinking about fasting, so there are some things that we do that, like I say, are beneficial and helpful. Fasting, if you want to think about it in that way, it's like a form of suffering to help cease sin. Fasting can be considered beneficial in that manner. You're sacrificing, and the whole idea behind fasting is it forces you to rely on God. I need food. I need energy. And that's the whole idea, is rely on God for that. And I've heard a lot of stories about people talk about, man, I was really getting the shakes. I was feeling weak. I prayed to the Lord, God, I need that strength. I need that energy to carry on. It's like all of a sudden it was there. I could keep going. That was the whole purpose and the idea, is make you go to Him, make you rely on Him. But here's the thing: we know life itself, the sufferings that it brings, sometimes just causes us to, as they say, get grounded and recenter. They talk about recenter yourself, get grounded. Now, not everybody. Some people get it, like I say, they get a bad attitude. If you're a pretty well grounded Christian, and suffering happens to you, this is the point. It can cause you to actually get closer to God. Okay, here's an example. Job. The man Job. And even though there's lots of questions going on, it actually seemed to make him stronger as a follower of God. He didn't understand, and he had lots of questions, but we see him that his faith in God, I mean, was there. Okay.
David,
Hmm,
and David,
Yeah,
his grief and repentance.
yeah, I mean, he's not saying, if you suffer, that you're never gonna, that's saying, he's not saying that you're never gonna sin ever again. He's not saying that. But, what he is saying is, it can be a beneficial thing, as far as your sin life goes. Okay. So that's to live the rest of your life, rest of the time in the flesh, no longer for the lust, but for the will of God. For the time already past is sufficient for you. Time past, what time? The time already past is sufficient for you. What time is he talking about? Huh?
Time before you get to Christ.
Okay? If you want to think about it this way, you have had plenty of time to sow your wild oats. That's pretty much what he's saying. Okay? Okay, you've had time. You've had plenty of time. Get that out of your system. Sow all your wild oats. Okay? And his point is, okay, now, time's over. That time's over with. I hear talk about, when I was a child, I used to think like a child, acted like a child, behaved like a child. But now that I'm an adult, I put away childish things. And this is the deal, that we realize that at some point in time, you've got to grow up. And then you have to, in today's terminology, then you have to adult. I see all kinds of t-shirts about adulting, I'm not, what's it like, I'm not ready, or I don't want to, or. But, Sam's back, what's a, he's back here. Time to be an adult. Put all that stuff away, okay, get serious. And here's the deal, that he said, then when you do that, they are surprised. Anybody surprised by you? Hmm? Probably. Most likely, well, I'm sure there's probably somebody out there. It's kind of unfair. When I think about it, some of us might be an unfair comparison because most all the people that I've known and grown up with and friends and whatever, I think my Bible college colleagues are probably not surprised. And as far as surprised, when he talks about surprised that I'm not going down that road, that pathway.
They're surprised at the change that has occurred, that you can no longer indulge in past activity.
Well, that's the thing. Some of us, it's kind of a little bit of a foreign thing for most of us probably because you read that list of those things that he talks about there. This crowd that I'm looking at, don't know that there's any of us here really that went down that pathway.
But you can think of people that have come to church here and say, wow, I never thought he'd ever be here in church.
Now that, yeah.
I mean, not necessarily excluding this present company, but
Mm-hmm.
there are, wow, I remember the day, and then you think about all these things.
And that's the thing, and that's a great example that even Christians get surprised sometimes. Yeah, they better give up that life. But he's talking about the people that are in that lifestyle of sin. Surprised when we decide, no more.
Big change in your life.
Yeah. So, like I said, that's kind of a, for us that's here. Anyone surprised by you? I say, I think about most everybody here, our crowds, our families, our friends that we've had. That, I don't know that if I say any of us or whatever we've been, way off in that left field. Okay. That's my perspective. Yeah. I think I know everybody pretty well, but all right. This is the thing. Think about it this way. If you was one of those people, having people surprised at you would be a good thing. That's what you want. And actually, we realize some of those people have some great testimonies, great proof and evidence that God is real. You know, some of those people that we hear a lot of people talk about. Wow, man, I've heard you got a year clean sobriety. Wish I could do that. Man, there's that open, man, talk about open door for somebody to witness and have an influence on somebody. Man, anybody can do it. You just gotta tap in the right source. The thing that I'm surprised about, though, is I've seen this and I've heard it, though. The person's like, you know what, I'm tired of that life. Don't want that anymore. I want to get clean. The thing that surprises me is the old cronies, so-called friends that they have. You would think that they would be like, that's super. That's wonderful. But a lot of times, those people are like, just one more, it ain't gonna hurt you. Yeah, come on, and don't be a killjoy. Just come on and join the party. You would think. And that's the thing I've shared with a couple of those people. It's like, listen, obviously you talk about that person being your friend. I really question that. Because a friend, a real true friend, would want the best for you. They want you to stay in that lifestyle. Think about, is that really a true friend? Not. And sometimes some of those people have to make some tough choices. I know I've mentioned before. And I know, knowing well, I've said to him a bit, but I know he's been pretty open, whatever, but Quentin Denny shared how that he was completely away from them for that purpose. Those people kept dragging him back down. He said, you know what, I had to get completely hundreds of miles away, to get clean. And he said, a lot of people thought, that's so stupid, so foolish to make such a drastic move, and he said, but you know what, if it gets you clean, it's worth it. If it gets you clean, it's worth it. So, all right. Surprise. Hopefully you're surprised. And then we talked a little bit about last week. Talks about how that they will give an account to him who's ready to judge the living and the dead. The gospel has one person preached even those who are dead. We talked about that last night. And that was the question was how to judge. Okay, judge the living, but judging the dead. That was my question. How does that work? To judge the dead.
When you talk about the time before Jesus
that's the thing, I know we kind of, and I'm sorry, that's why we're gonna briefly just touch on it and move on, 'cause I know we kind of discussed this more at length a couple of weeks ago, but, the whole idea is giving them opportunity. It has been suggested, and to me, it fits. Because some people talk about, okay, what about people that have lived after Jesus that never heard? So like say, tribes in Africa, South America, that never, I mean, obviously lived and died after Jesus. Lived, died, resurrected. They obviously lived hundreds of years after, but never ever heard the gospel message. What about them? And some have suggested, and like I say, it's obviously not in the Bible or scriptural, but it stands to reason. At some point in time, they will be, even though, like I say, they've died, they will be given the opportunity to hear the message and make a decision. The other thing it tells me is this, for me, is like, you think about the spirit world. There's a lot more to the spirit world, obviously, than we will ever know. The dynamics and how all of that works, whatever. But, you know, think about the spirit world existed. Jesus went to them, preached the message, actually preached to them. You know, and there was a invitation time given to them in the spirit world. I say there's a lot, obviously, we have no knowledge of and no knowledge.
Well, we know that, again, Christ will rise first. I wonder if there's an opportunity there. Or when he is in the cloud, when he's gathering, you know, his followers.
My understanding of that, like I say, as we talk about the rapture, is all the Christians that have gone on before, from where, I mean, they get that first shift. And then like I say, should we happen to still be alive when he comes, then we make the shift. We catch the second shift. You know, that's like all those people, Christians, those that are saved, they get to go, and then we that are alive get to go. That's it. Well, speaking of which, then, and he talks about the gospel has for this person, but then like I say, we just mentioned, and he said the end of all things is near. Remember the old cartoons that showed the hippie walking around with his placard? The end is near. Haven't seen those cartoons in a long, long time. I guess because that was kind of a popular thing back in the 60s, probably. But, it kind of phased out, whatever. But Peter says the end of all things is near. I think it's one of those things that's part of our message. As we witness to people, talk to people about Christianity. And it may be one of those things that I think it is one of the arguments that we know as comes up that's like, no, Peter, 2,000 years ago, they've been talking about that for 2,000 years. And here we still are. You Christians, y'all are crazy people. Y'all are stupid people to believe in this thing. And you talk about 2,000 years ago, the end is near, and we're still here.
Just shows how patient and long suffering God is.
Yeah.
Not willing anyone to perish.
Well, it could be closer than you think. There's an Apos, A-P-O-P-E-S.
5 more years.
For what?
Harvey, you just want me.
Before we work for it.
Wormwood?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of, the government scientists says, no, it's not what we did. There's other ones saying, well, I don't know what kind of math you're using, but we're on the way, of course.
But, I'm not supposed to be, no.
Well, when his return is, uh,
But the Orphan is part of Revelation, so this is,
yeah, that's the thing, the book of Revelation specifically
says it's gonna happen.
mentions that name, wormwood, which is, and it's in reference to, like a sulfur brimstone type substance that rains down from heaven, called wormwood, and it takes out like, what's it, a third or 2/3
Yeah,
of the earth and its vegetation and population and
water.
water. So 5 more years.
It could even just come really close to the earth, create all
That-
kinds of havoc
That's a good point.
without making contact.
That's a good point. But,
You know, when the Southern Lights came down a couple of weeks ago, they were marking how far down in the U.S. it was visible, as because of solar flares in a mass eruption that was uncommon. And they said, actually, if it was only, if that impacted the direction of the solar flares were only a couple of degrees closer, it just skimmed by us. It could actually completely have the same effect as the EMP, knocking out the electrical devices. In fact, in the 1800s, they had a solar flare, and they melted the wires off the telegraph poles.
yeah.
Back in the forties, these I think it was, probably in the forties, I don't remember the story, but they had the same thing happen. And there were, train crossings and all this stuff just going off, and that was way back then. And that was hard to now.
Yeah.
It's.
So, and here's the thing, 5 years before possible destruction of the earth. The deal is, we talk about the rapture, that could happen, and that's the thing, at any moment before then.
So they can prevent it from coming anytime.
The original talks about the prophecy of the second coming of Christ, and that's when he comes, actually sets foot on planet Earth, and all these things gotta happen before that happens, and, you know, all. But, I like, there's been individuals, like Jim Barfield, and like Zola Levitt, and like some of these other guys that have really really steeped into apocalyptic scriptures and writings and all of that. There is no prophecy that has to happen before the rapture. Yes, there are a couple of things that have to happen before his second coming, but before the rapture, there's nothing.
So all the prophecies that were made prior to the second coming, or to the rapture, have all come true.
Yeah. So in other words, we're not waiting. The thing as far as prophecy goes, we're not waiting on anything before the rapture. That could happen now at any moment.
Not talking about what's written in Revelation, but prior to the rapture.
So here's the thing, you know, I'm talking to somebody, trying to be a witness and talking to somebody, and my argument is this. Oh, you know, they say, oh, it's 2,000 years, you know, and nothing's happened yet, then, you know, I don't think anything's going to happen. My argument is this. Are you absolutely sure you're right? I hope you are. You better hope that you're right, absolutely 100% sure and right that nothing's going to happen.
Are you for impressure?
For what?
That's bad, impressure.
It's an ad on TV.
It's an ad on TV.
What is it?
Are you for imprints or?
Imprints,
means
oh,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
put it
see,
in
I see.
writing.
Yeah, the guy was it something about surgery, getting ready to go into surgery, and he's like, pretty sure, you know, they're like, nah. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's my point is, I hope you better hope you're right.
And then the next question is, what if you're wrong?
But yes,
That's the hook. Are you so certain that you're betting your eternal salvation and existence on what you believe now, and what if you're wrong? There's no coming back.
there is an actual name, I forgot what it is. There's an actual name for that argument. It was the argument that was given to Alexander the Great that convinced him to turn and become a Christian. Is it Alexander the Great? Or Constantinople? I don't remember. I think it was Alexander the Great. But it was that was the idea. Supposedly, you know, I'm right, you know, all about this thing about God and everything, and I'm right, and, you know, it turns out that it's correct, made it to heaven. What if I say there is a God, and I believe all these things, and I'm wrong? Okay, nothing. I just lived a life, preaching a life, and it was for nothing. But let's suppose you want to live your life rejecting God, and there is no such thing, you know, and the end of your life, you know, that's it, end for you. But what if that was the last part of it? You don't believe in God, you don't accept any of these things, and the Bible and all of that is correct. You know, your goose is cooked. And the point is this: to accept that there is a God is a win-win. That's the whole point. It's a win-win. The other position is you're betting 50. It's a 50% chance. You're taking a gamble, huh?
Something gambit.
Yeah, there's an actual name for that argument, and that's the thing. The other way of deciding, okay, I don't want to believe in all of this, you got 50% chance. Are you a gambling person or not? And that convinced, I think it was Alexander the Great, I think it was either that or Constantinople. I don't know. My history is been too long. But one of those great leaders that's like converted and realized, yeah, this is the thing, the end is near. You want to gamble or not? And that's the thing. A lot of people squirm and they don't want to hear, they don't want to listen to that, they want to hear it. You know? Okay. You don't, I'll put it out there. You know, I'm going to talk to you about it anymore there. Just now it's in your ball in your court. You deal with it, whatever, how you think you want to deal with it. Okay. So anyway, the end is near. So therefore, because the end is near, be sound judgment, sober spirit for the purpose of what? Prayer. And keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. Okay? We realize love, that's a theme that we have to realize through the entire Bible. Adam and Eve all the way to the very end, love. That's really what it's all about.
For God so loved the world.
If there was no love, he wouldn't even have bothered with sending Jesus to the earth. Okay? Love. Love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. Oh. Let me check. So, verse 9. Who would complain? Be hospitable without complaint. Who would complain?
Terrible about that. Your neighbor comes beating at the door at night, wanting to look at your head.
Yeah. Go away. Here. Okay. Surely not in the church.
Yes, it
see, but
Shirley, don't you just, and don't call me Shirley.
don't call me Shirley, yeah. Yeah.
Surely you're joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Have you ever encountered people griping and complaining in church?
Some people complain about everything.
I remember,
Just complainers.
I remember when we were, yeah, years ago, anyway, we were redoing all back there. And had one individual, maybe a couple of them, maybe, oh my goodness, they got it all tore up, blah, 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 blah. And Renee was poking me, and I'm like, I said, just let it, water off your lights out, pull the ducts back, just watch. You watch this. I knew what was going to happen. Got it all done. All finished back there. That same person, somebody came to church visit. Oh my, you need to come see what wonderful stuff we got going on. And that same person was doing all that griping, complaining that we had all this building construction stuff going on. Let me go show you what the wonderful is, how wonderful it is. And I elbowed Renee, and she was just like, you know, yeah, go figure.
I'm sure they,
No.
one of them was.
No, Dad was, his main thing was, his concern was, he was talking about Renee, I think she bit off more than she could chew, you know. He was thinking that he wasn't so much against the construction part of it. I think he was just thinking that
It was just overwhelming.
Or the deconstruction.
the destruction. I think it was just thinking, wow, what a big project, and handling it, being able to handle it. I don't think he was opposed to what we were doing. I think he was just kind of concerned about our ability, could we get it finished and everything.
Hey, I think you took a hammer, somebody was waffling.
Yeah.
You took a hammer, not a big hole in the wall, and your dad was standing there, he says, well, you're gonna have to finish it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the thing. If you want to start complaints in church, do a change. Yeah, we always talk about the joke about the piano.
Yeah. The lawnmower,
The lawnmower.
side bagger, rear bagger,
Yeah.
the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I went online, and I was gonna pull down the picture of that. It's the picture of the lawnmower, the church board, church committee design. And I haven't been able to find it. But I've seen a picture before. It's a monstrosity, because gotta have this. Oh yeah, that's right. And by the way, you gotta have that. Gotta have this. By the time they got done, it's just a complete ridiculous thing. I wish I could find that picture again. I would print it off and keep it. But change something. Make a change. That's the thing, that typically, not just church. A lot of things, a lot of areas, work, city, whatever. Make a change and start listening for the complaints. But now he's talking specifically about being hospitable. Anybody experience gripes, complaints, that you called on to practicing some hospitality towards somebody?
I sure hate cleaning up the kitchen after all this work.
I was trying to think that the guy's name, the preacher out in California. I think I shared that not too long. It seemed like I was talking to somebody, or I don't know if I did it in a sermon or what. But the was this, huh? This guy, he was preaching out in California. This is like say in the '60s, and it was a documentary about the Jesus. They call it Jesus music. So all these people like the Herrings siblings that made up second chapter of Acts, Phil Keaggy, Keith Green, all those guys got saved in that guy's church out in California. And he was talking about they were doing actually a little bit of a celebration of his ministry. He'd been, I don't know if he had just retired or whatever, like a lot of years he'd been involved in ministry. But he said there was in the church, and they started out, and they just decided to open the door to all these hippies. You know, let's open the door to all these people that, you know, these hippies, and let them come and be part of church. And they someone went, whoa, you know, they're coming in with their dirty jeans and dirty T-shirts and messing up our pews. And his point was, then let's get rid of the pews. That was his point. If that's what's keeping people out, let's get rid of the pews. Oh, well, you know, what else? They had some other complaint about, he's like, look, that's the same thing. If that's what's keeping people outside the door, let's get rid of that. Well, the thing is, we realized that they went ahead and went along, and like I said, the church, I don't know, we became a big church, but think about all the impact music-wise, Christian church music-wise. They think about all those guys, Keith Green and Phil Keaggy and the second chapter of Acts and was it Norman, Larry, whatever. There's a whole list of all those guys that music all came out of his ministry, converting them and then, you know, starting their Christian music, contemporary Christian music, and like I say now, that's started it and it's still going. Whatever the that's like complaining. Every day they were complaining. Well, those dirty kids will be smeared stuff all over.
Great Warrior or Chuck Smith.
Maybe. Okay. All right. So, who would complain? Hospitality. I think that's the thing. Sometimes we just feel put out. Well, you know, if I help, you know, like I say, we get that. There is that mentality. Like I said, let's talk about Cal Perry. Well, you know, a lot of those people are just trying to get in here because like I say, they get a place to lay down and sleep, and we give them a meal or two. And you know, the idea is, you know what? We start that. It's gonna be it's like the dog. You know, you put out the stray dog, you put a little food out there. You're never gonna get rid of them. Why? No, there was a lot of people driving, complaining, and argued about, we start this up, the next thing you know, we like the dog or the cat, we just can't get rid of them now. Now they're gonna keep coming back for the food and for the bed. Yeah, what are you gonna do? All right. Prayer matters. I saw Dave Adams was the one that put out. I don't know if anybody remembers Kathy Figueroa.
Yeah.
I remember the Figueroa girls. There was two of them. Were they twins? You remember? Anyway, Kathy Figueroa's daughter was a granddaughter, Hannah, had the brain surgery. I know Bob had put a little word out yesterday that supposedly brain surgery went well. She's like 15. You remember Sam?
I don't have
I think she's like just a teenager anyway. Surgery went well, everything was looking good there for her, but we'll keep Hannah in prayer. Just keep Rhonda in prayer. She had contacted, she's having a lot of health issues. Positive for COVID again.
Fourth time.
Mike's uncle, Mike's uncle Dean Brown, we got word, I guess they were giving him 2 to 4 weeks to live. Oh, 2 to 4 months, okay. Mike's uncle, Dean. Let's keep the Helen and Angie family in prayers. Graveside is Friday morning. Also, I don't know if everybody remembers Frida Ray. Angie. Yeah. Yeah, her graveside will be here at Cass Cemetery Friday. Frida Ray, her graveside was today. Frida, if everybody remembers Frida Ray, lived right there across this.
Ray, grocery store?
No, Frida and Doyle, yeah, well, from where the liquor store was, right next door, that's where they lived for years and years, next door to where they.
Where was she in terms
Frida Ray, she did Sunset. Frida Ray was, she was interred at Sunset. Helen will be here in Castle. So let's keep those things. Okay.
And she did send word to please thank the prayer group and all those who have been praying for her. Please continue.
Okay. Let's keep Dan in prayer. He was sharing with me that, I guess, I saw the doctor and his back situation's a lot worse than realized. So let's keep Dan in prayer. Linda's supposed to be having,
I saw the doctor and all that, and he said to make up for the city, because I had heart irregularity,
okay,
so they did a cardiologist.
okay. So we'll keep Linda in prayer.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll keep her in prayer. Like I say, she faces a possible hip surgery, so, and that will give her the clearing so she can get that done.
Yeah, he said it was really bad.
Yeah.
Patty Ramirez.
Oh, yeah.
Hazel Shannon.
Her mom, Hazel Shannon, anyway, which is, your brother's, brother, well, then his mother-in-law passed away.
Hazel, I don't know if any of y'all dealt with anything in Lawton, but she was majorly over a lot of the handbooks, the junior handbooks, and big days. She volunteered so much of her time to that, those functions.
That was Hazel Shannon.
Hazel Shannon.
Hazel Shannon. I knew them a long time ago from Patty. The daughter Patty was at Christian School in Rockville. So, good, really nice. All right, the same. You close to the first night.
Our Heavenly Father, we say, we're just so grateful for the blessings that you give us. So thank you for time that we can come together and explore the Bible and walk all the histories and discover